admin as well. Yeah, that's what I heard. I heard that policy was actually live during the Trump administration, but it was odd to me that she did not. She didn't respond. There was no response. There was no like, no, that's not what happened. I thought that was crazy. I thought that was crazy. I thought like she should have come back with something. The fact that she didn't come back with anything made me say, okay, well maybe that's part of her agenda then, because she's not saying anything to refute it. It looked to me like the campaign strategy for Kamala was, we're not going to mention trans stuff at all. That's what it looked like to me. All right, guys, here we go.
Voice Media.
Welcome home, y'all. This is our mini pod. We tricked y'all. We still here. I wanted to touch base with y'all because we did a whole show where we ended up in a rumble around the Oval Office and whose ass should have a chair in there. But what we didn't talk about is what happened in the election.
Because everybody else has.
Okay, so this is Andrew Gillum. Andrew Gillum was a how do I say? He was running for governor. He was the one that was running for governor. Almost beat DeSantis and then lost. So that sucks for him. We continue.
Well, but I think that our perspectives matter here. A lot of the folks that have something to say don't necessarily have the inroads with the people we know within these campaigns. And I think the other thing that has been talked about in passing, but not as much, is the fact that it wasn't just a Harris for president campaign loss. The Senate is gone, and so is the House.
Yeah, man. Yeah, man. Y'all got, the Democrats got worked. They got worked. Now, I think it was Ian. Ian can testify. There's a couple people that kept asking me before the election. They said, what do you expect to happen? I said, I expect Trump to win in a landslide. Then news happened, blah, 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 blah. People were asking me, okay, now what do you think's going to happen? And I said the same thing. I said, I'm pretty certain Trump's going to win in a landslide. They said, how could you be so sure? I'll tell you how I could be so sure later, but we continue. But she's right. They lost the Senate. They lost the House. And by the way, pro-lifers, if these people, if these politicians are really serious, right? We got the House and the Senate. So if your local politician who's been telling you about Planned Parenthood and the evils of Planned Parenthood and all the rest of it, we now have an opportunity to truly and really end abortion. So let's see if the Republicans do it. Was it? By the way, guys. By the way, let me know. Type 18 if you want me small and them big, or type 22 if you want me big and them small, or if you just want like half screen. I don't know. I'm playing around with this stuff, but anyway, let's continue, shall we? This is Angela Rye, by the way. This is the one I was talking about. She's like the hip hop millennial Gen Z strategist for you know the black community. We can do, or people of color, as they say.
And so I want to talk about what we all think happened. I'm sure that this is another one of those conversations where reasonable minds can disagree. And so I want to hear what you think. Andrew, you are our resident candidate, a Democratic strategist that has run a campaign and knows what it's like to get close. I think you probably only know what it's like to get close.
Andrew Gillum was like really, really close. Like TYT. You ever seen those meltdown videos or whatever? There's a meltdown video where they were talking about the midterms or whatever, and they were certain that Gillum was going to win, and then it turned out DeSantis won, and they were really, really hurt by that. Shout out to Cenk. Exit polls said abortion was a top issue for only 13% of voters. Yeah, I know. It's incredible. And again, I'll come up with my Marxist theory as to why, but we continue.
You only have one, and you've only gotten close. You've never had a blowout like this. So what do you think went wrong, or what do you know went wrong?
Angela, I can tell you one thing that I believe went right, and that is Kamala Harris with 100 days to transition from VP candidate to presidential candidate, which is, I can't even imagine the change that would have had to happen, ran through the goddamn tape. I think she was everywhere, talked to everybody. Are there tactical pieces that needed to change? Are there?
Well, when he said she ran through the tape, that's probably an allusion to, hey, BC, good to see you. Yeah, I've seen the Vanguard boys, and to be honest with you, you know, they're not really a group of people that I really feel the need to even address or interact with, and a lot of that just has to do with the fact that they're young and they have no idea what the hell they're talking about. Like, no disrespect to the Vanguard boys, but honestly, y'all don't know what the hell y'all are talking about, honestly. Especially when it comes to black issues. Shout out to the Vanguard boys, though. Like, share, comment, subscribe. Hold on. So she's saying what went wrong in the
is Kamala Harris with 100 days to transition from VP candidate to presidential candidate, which is, I can't even imagine the change that
I don't know anybody.
Well, wait a second.
Talk about
she candidate. She was the VP, and then she transitioned to be a presidential candidate. So I maybe I'm just like, you know what I'm saying? You know, being pedantic and stupid. People say that all the time. So, okay, let me pull back.
You probably only know what it's like to get close. You only have won and you've only gotten close. You've never had a blowout like this. So what do you think went wrong, or what do you know went wrong?
You never had a blowout.
Angela, I can tell you one thing that I believe went right, and that is Kamala Harris with 100 days to transition from VP candidate to presidential candidate, which is, I can't even imagine the change that would have had to happen, ran through the goddamn tape. I think she was everywhere, talked to everybody. Are there tactical pieces that need?
I gotta acknowledge this. I've heard a lot of young people, especially young black women, use this word flawless. I heard homegirl Joy Reid from MSNBC use the term flawless to describe Kamala Harris's campaign. I do not think she ran a flawless campaign, but what I will say is, if you compare, hell, Biden kind of got away with not being everywhere because of COVID. It was a COVID year, so it was like the perfect time for a candidate like Biden, who obviously the strategy was, we're going to keep him off the camera, we're going to keep him away from people because we don't want people to see his mental decline, which is, okay, smart strategy. And in the environment in 2020, you guys remember this, you had to spend 6 feet away from everybody, social distancing, shopping was crazy, all the rest of that, right? And so when you look at a situation like that, you can be like, well, yeah, you know, it was perfect for a candidate like Biden. But prior to 2020, you had 2016, and one of the big major criticisms for Hillary was, while Trump was in these Rust Belt states and these blue wall states, she basically sat on her laurels because, you know, it was over with in her mind. And all of us thought that way. And she got heavily criticized for that. So when he says she ran straight through the tape, you got to give her credit. She was everywhere. She was literally knocking on doors in these battleground states, man. So I will give her credit for that. I will give her credit. She was a very hardworking candidate. She put in way more work than Hillary and Joe, I'd say probably combined. So that is true. Although this guy is being asked what went wrong, but he wants to start off with what went right, and, you know, that's okay. You know, that's fine. That's fine. All right, let's keep going.
Did you change? Are there, you know, things that can always be done on the edges and the inseams of a campaign? Absolutely. But when you think greater, bigger picture, Kamala Harris did what she could do as a candidate. She could not, however, answer.
Well, I think that her dodging Joe Rogan was bad. I'm not sure that that's a tactical error, because I don't believe that Kamala Harris is a very good extemporaneous speaker. And if you look at the social media she did the Who's Your Daddy podcast, or Call Her Daddy podcast. I don't know what that is, to be honest with you. I've never heard of that before. Hopefully they have over 1 million subs. And then there was the other podcast. She went to Shannon Sharp's podcast. And Shannon Sharp's podcast was really interesting because literally all of the comments there were negative. I've never seen anything like that before in my life. And I kind of do this for a living. I've never seen that before in my life. I said, subhanallah, man, these people hate Kamala Harris. And so I went to the Majority Report. I should have took a bunch of screenshots, but I went to the Majority Report chat and I said, listen, man. I said, listen, hey, Adolf Hitler, come and welcome. Come and welcome, Mr. Hitler. Mods, please don't ban Hitler yet. He wants attention. Okay, Mr. Hitler, here's your attention. Come and welcome. We love you. God loves you. Everybody loves you. Okay. The stuff, nigger, blah 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 blah. Cool. Can we talk about politics now? I'm sure you have a wonderful. Guys, please be nice to him. Okay, show him Christian. So this is Andrew G, and he's saying that Kamala did a good job. I think that the Democrats have to find someone that can communicate to normal Americans like a normal person. It seemed to me that everything Kamala said was scripted. Every smile she put out was timed. That is a completely unfair assessment because I don't know her heart, but what can I do? That's just my impression. But yeah, like he's saying there might be some tactical errors. That's probably the Joe Rogan stuff, the Aiden Ross stuff. But I just don't think that Kamala has a skill set. Kamala is only a powerful speaker when she is in the prosecutorial role. Because remember, she was the AG, right? So,
hi.
You're an hour early.
Yeah, I rushed. Excuse me.
You're a huge fan of who? Hitler? Well, then you're in the right place. Because we got some miscegenation. We got some old-fashioned miscegenation
perfect
happening,
timing.
dear listener. We got this wonderful Aryan queen here. Rolling around in the mud.
Making all kinds of babies with you.
Yeah, so I will agree that that Kamala was we're listening to this thing. I will agree that Kamala worked very, very hard. I also think maybe there are some tactical errors. I just think that at the end of the day, the current world we're in, celebrity doesn't mean the same thing.
And you have to be able to talk long form.
And you got to be able to talk long form.
And she can't. I've been listening in the other room, so I'm kind of caught up.
Yeah.
For endemic problems and within the Democratic Party structure, and quite frankly, the diminished Democratic turnout that we experienced in this election. Let nobody forget.
I got to tell you guys, what was it, like a 15 million delta between in the vote? Like there are 15 million less people that voted this time around. I got to tell you guys, that's kind of weird to me. I'm not going to lie to you. How did we lose 15 million votes from 2020 to 2024? How is that possible? We were in the what do you call it? The COVID scare. We had 15 million more votes during the COVID scare than this one. I don't know, guys. I don't know. It just seems to me like some weird fluky stuff was happening, bro. I don't know. We continue.
Get that we had a voter drop off from 2020 to 2024. And the 7 states that were battleground states where Kamala competed on the air, was very present, tried to make her case. She lost to Donald Trump by basically 3 points on average between those states or less. And states that she did not compete, meaning they were not battleground states, she lost by 6 points or greater. What's the point there? And places where people got to hear her, where people got to hear her defense and what she stood for, she closed the gap between Donald Trump and Republicans by 3 points. Of industrialized nations where, and I know people were like, well, we don't.
This is a really like bad art. So again, she asked what went wrong, how did she fail, and he's still trying to start off positively. But this is such a terrible argument to me. It's like, well, in the states where she put out all that money and went door to door, she only lost by 3 points. In the states where she wasn't, she lost by 8 to 10 points, and that in his mind says that Kamala was a great. Means is that there was no way possible she could have won. Mm-hmm. If you're in an area as a presidential candidate and you're literally, but you're still going to lose by 3 points. And again, 3 points is 3 percentage points. That is hundreds of thousands of votes. It's not like 97 to 94 in a basketball game and Steph Curry hits the game-winning 3. Mm-hmm. So when he says 3 points, we got to think about this.
Mm-hmm. Plus, they put out all that money for that globe that they lost in that state, didn't they?
Well, yeah, they put out $900K in Nevada for that globe, and yeah, she lost. I mean, she lost.
Because he's saying in the states where they put out the money and got the information out there. I mean, that's the most people that they probably addressed in one single setting.
Okay, so Rhodas Octon has I really like that last name, Octon. That's a cool last name. Ease of access explains the voters' drop-off. Okay, so what we're talking about is mail-in ballots. There was a lot of mail-in ballots because of COVID. But weren't we able to do mail-in ballots this time around? Serious question. Like, how does that account for 15 million people? To me, 2020 would have socialized more people to continue the mail-in ballots thing if that's what got it done.
Yeah.
You don't have to you don't have to be in a line. You don't have to talk to anybody.
Yeah.
When we went out to vote, like right before, I'm not gonna say which party it was, but they had started a fight, like a physical altercation, and I was like, "Oh, for real? We fighting?" So I went over there, and then the boss,
the law.
she said, "Vin, no!" I was like, "All right, Martha, whatever you say."
At this instant. Although, if I would have known the crew of people that it was,
the official Sabir Bay account, Sabir, Sabir. Yo, biatch looks like a man.
Oh, I didn't even read.
That's his way. That's his way of saying he's very attracted to you. But you're with a black dude, so there's nothing he can do about it because he knows. We continue.
Live in industrialized life. We live in the United States. Well, listen to this just globally. Globally, the incumbent parties, be they conservative or liberal, and democracies all across the globe up until getting to ours, the incumbent party and leadership were walloped across the board. The United States of all...
He's right about that. Pretty much all the incumbents in the world, except for Mexico, lost. And that's because you have the... it really started with us. You have the economic downturn because of COVID, and then everybody felt the effects of that downturn in the last 4 years, and so all the people that were governing at that time all got held accountable for it. And so his argument is to say you had all of this stuff, headwinds that are against her. What I would say is, if you knew the headwinds were that bad, then why would you run a candidate who, if she puts out a max effort, is only going to lose by 3? Mm-hmm. I mean, Trump had like 18-point turnarounds, 20-point turnarounds, what he did in the Latin community. I mean, he flipped a bunch of numbers. Mm-hmm. I mean, I don't know, but I still don't understand the 15 million number. I really don't get it because I understand about the mail-in votings, but people were able to mail-in vote this time around. So I don't know. Rig is saying some states restricted mail-in votings this time. If somebody can track that down, that would be good to know, because that's an important story that explains this drop-off. Because
look, yeah, she did, the Black Queen. Welcome.
Yeah, that would provide. Shout out to the Black Queen. That would provide a lot of explanatory power for me personally, if somebody has any information about the mailing voting thing.
All of those developed nations who had democratic elections had the smallest defeat of any of the other countries. I think that's important to understand because Kamala closed a very significant gap. It should have been worse.
That's the argument. It should have been worse. I do not believe that if we had Bernard Sanders up there that we would be having this conversation right now. But if we had Bernie Sanders, let's say you have a Sanders AOC ticket, I believe that they have a real chance of winning. A real chance of winning. I think Bernie would have crushed Trump in 2016, but definitely in 2024, if Bernie like really decided to knuckle up, I think Bernie would have had a problem. The problem here is that this was a horrible candidate, guys. Simple. We continue.
Is I got to retort back to James Carville. It's the economy, stupid. And I know we've been talking a bit about whether or not there is some duplicity in people believing in that message. But when you can take black men's support to low 20% and Latino men's support to 50% plus, a 25-point shift in a cycle, we can't just trump it up to what is a significant issue here.
Okay, you just said it yourself. Look, listen to what this guy says about how Trump flipped these demographics that were hostile to him. So on the one hand, we're excusing Kamala because you're saying, man, she had all these headwinds and she had all these demographics that were hostile to her. But on the other hand, you still have the same issues that Trump had, but he flipped them in pretty significant ways. I want to hear this again.
A 25-point shift in a cycle, we can't just trump it up to what is a significant issue here, which is that of race and gender, including amongst these two groups that I just mentioned, as being real impediments to Kamala's ability to scale that additional hurdle. I would say...
Okay, so it's race and sex. Her race and her sex is the reason that she lost. Okay.
While we did not win in a number of places where we wanted to win at the top of the ticket the most, Democrats really did mitigate a number of losses. Hakeem Jeffries will have experienced what? Potential gain of 1 or 2 seats, a loss of 1 or 2 seats. The fact that they were able to hold steady when people held us accountable for not being able to afford their groceries, that is not a mandate for the president or the Congress to treat the opposing party and their beliefs and their supporters any kind of way.
No. Well, look, it's not necessarily about treating people, but as Mr. Obama famously said, we won. That's what he said. When the Republicans like, hey, you're doing X, Y, Z, he'd be like, we won. So I don't know what this is right here. We're not going to change the rules because Kamala lost. Like, I don't understand that. Come and welcome, Tabby.
I know everybody thinks
you're saying that's what went right or what went wrong.
What I'm saying is that there was a lot that went right that we are not accounting for in the way this election in total played out. The things that went.
Okay, so
what, she wants to know what they did wrong? Is that
no. Question that was asked. He started with all the positive things. He's like, there's a lot of things that she did right that people aren't accounting for because she got blown out. Okay, well, I want to know. But
don't the numbers tell you? Like, if you lost, that means you didn't do a bunch of things right. That means that the focus should be what you did wrong. Like, how is...
Oh, I agree. I agree. But I think that...
If we just brought in a king and the position was not going to change, well, yeah, you can...
Agree.
Make yourself feel better by the things you did right. But in 4 years, we're all going to be voting again. Like...
No, I agree with that. I think what he's saying... By the way, guys, type 22 if you want us big and him small, or vice versa. Or 23 if you want us small and them big. All right. Yeah, no, I completely agree with you. But he's saying that she did a lot of things right that she's not getting credit for. So the girls are like, well, tell us these things.
Oh.
Yeah, I'd like to know myself.
Yeah.
Right to make that happen?
Are you saying that the loss wasn't that bad, so that's went right?
No. Yes, in part because it was supposed to be much greater. I know.
It was supposed to be greater? Is that
so there's all this blood all over the country on these electoral maps, and his argument is she could have done worse. So, like, she lost, but no, I see the argument. But to me, if he's right, then that begs the question, why do you have her as a candidate then? If she's so horrible that her level best, it gets her a 3% loss in swing states, some of which were blue, most of which were blue last term, then you're basically conceding that she was the wrong candidate.
Mm-hmm.
No?
No, I think so. I think
Wait,
so for
what
sure.
does 23 mean?
22
means that we're big and they're small?
Yeah, I forgot which one was which.
Okay. Let me simplify this for my own brain, because I haven't done Middle America in a while. If you want us big, type big. If you want us small like this, type small. There you go. All right. We'll continue.
We all had optimism that it was the devil versus the angel sitting on the shoulder.
See, that's a mistake. That's a mistake. Trump is not the devil. That is such an error. How can we say that Trump is the devil? Like, what are you talking about? Like, this is the thing that gets me. Like, the exaggerated, like, alarmism about Donald Trump. And the fact that these guys still don't get it. Mm-hmm. Like, America does not perceive Trump to be the devil.
Yep. As a matter of fact, they're perceiving, and I don't agree with this, but they're perceiving him to be a Christ figure, because he essentially almost died that day, and now he's out there still running. And on top of that, he's being unjustly gone out. Well, I believe unjustly, because I think that there's so many people that should have been in trouble and never were, and now all of a sudden there was all this pressure put on him so that way they could, bring him through the courts and stuff, so he couldn't actually do his job. But I'm not up on all the details of that stuff. But he was also gone after by the legal system. So anybody who's ever been in that situation is like, oh, this guy, and it looks like he's gonna he already got off now, right? So yeah, I don't think that people, like, a lot of people are not perceiving him as a devil figure. They're perceiving him, as a Christ figure. I don't agree with that. I don't think he's a Christ figure. I do think that he's reforming a lot of things. It looks like kind of switching some stuff up, which I'm hopeful for. But yeah, I don't think.
Yeah, it's just not working out that way for y'all. We continue.
Not an angel, but I'm just making the comparison, which means he was canceled, could not be considered. Well, for a lot of voters, they didn't experience him so badly the first.
He was canceled. He shouldn't have been considered. That's the problem. You guys think if you cancel somebody that means the entire nation's going to cancel him. Mm-hmm. And this is the thing that kills me, because people talk about cancel culture, and the main purveyors of cancel culture are like, no, we're not canceling anybody. But now that Trump lost, they're like, I don't even understand how this happened. He was supposed to be canceled. And nobody's saying, like, maybe the cancellation stuff isn't working anymore. Maybe the cancel stuff only works with y'all. Mm-hmm. God almighty.
Mm-hmm. Time. They ignored a lot of his nonsense, which was consequential for a lot of communities, but they ignored it. And what they recalled was that their groceries were accessible and affordable. You had people across the board saying that they felt like they financially did better, even though the U.S. survived the U.S. survived the inflation better than any other industrialized country. We came out of it better. We came out of COVID better. But
okay, now this is where my Marxism comes in. I'm going to completely butcher this. This is not even a quote. This is a summation of an idea of a chapter I read in Capital. In the world, you have metaphysics, and then you have physics, okay? Physics are the basic laws of gravity. Metaphysics are, well, how do we have gravity that works so well every single time? There must be some sort of logos out there that's making it so that all of the universe runs particularly well. Yep. That's metaphysics, okay? So if I see a poor person, he is hungry. The physical side of that person is dying of hunger, right? Now I'm looking at this and saying, okay, what is the just thing to do for this poor person? That's metaphysics, right? It's the ideology I have that's going to get me to feed that kid or to look at that kid and tell him, go get a job, kid. Both of those are metaphysics. If you get 10 people in a room, right, you're going to get 11, 12 different metaphysical ideologies, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. You're going to have an atheist. He's going to say that nothing happened by any reason, just randomly, gas, whatever. Then you're going to have a theist, but within that theism, you're going to have Muslims, Christians, Jews, yada, 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 right? So we all have these variegated metaphysics. But here's the thing. You keep those same 10 people in a room and don't give them food for 2 weeks, what's going to happen? Everybody's going to be united in their hunger. So Marx says the material consequences on the ground are always going to trump the metaphysics in the mind. I don't believe that completely. For example, who was in the line during the Holocaust, electing people to murder. In front of him was like Maximilian Kolbe, Saint Maximilian Kolbe, blessed memory. So they had this Jewish dude, and the Nazis like, all right, come on, and they basically put you in the thing and starve you to death because they were experimenting on how long a human being could survive without food. And so this guy says, I have a kid, I have a wife, and the Nazi's like, I don't care, man, let's go. So Maximilian Kolbe says, hey, take me, I'm just a priest, I have nobody. And they did, and he died. Okay, so that refutes Marx, okay, in that perspective. But that is not, there's a reason the Catholic Church made that guy a saint. You know why? There were a bunch of Christians in that line, I'm sure. And they let that man go, they would have let that man go off and die. Why? Because material conditions are always generally going to trump metaphysical ideology, okay? And so what this guy doesn't understand is that because he is this guy, okay, Mark Robinson, we gotta.
It's all the same people.
Yeah.
It's all the same people, just coming in different names. We've got bigger things to do than deal with that.
Well, the thing is, I don't want to block you, bro. Like, if you want to be part of the conversation, cool, be part of your conversation, man. But like, don't flood the chat with the nonsense, okay? Like, chill out.
They just keep coming in different names. That's what I'm saying.
No, I'm just saying,
it's
like,
the same concept.
If you want attention, bro, like, it's cool. It's cool, but like,
or lady.
Yeah, it's probably most likely a lady. I'm not gonna lie to you.
I may know your name.
I'm not gonna lie. Right. Do we have any moderators? Get rid of that guy. All right. We continue.
People don't live in other countries. They live in this one. And so if their experience is bad, it's going to be reflected. Y'all, I think there were a lot of contributing factors to the loss that Democrats experienced. But I always felt like this race was either going to be like this, neck and neck, or that it was actually going to be a demonstrable win. I was hoping that demonstrable win was going to be in favor of Kamala Harris. But if you look across these battleground states, the blue wall collapsed, not terribly significantly, but enough for us not to win those electoral votes. And we got to get inside what the hell working people in this country are thinking. And when I include working people, I'm not talking about white rural folks. That is not a synonym for working people. Working people are black, brown, everything in between, who felt like this party was not doing their bidding. Even though we're the only ones doing their bidding, the talking points on the other side and the messaging from the other side made them look like they were the Union Party and not us. And
I mean, you guys are not doing the bidding of the people, man. Man, the people were not supporting you guys sending all them billions of dollars to Ukraine. What are you talking about? Like, this is and he really said that like he believed. He said, we're the only party that's addressing the grievances of the electorate. No, you're not. No, you're not. There's a lot of people that disagreed with the war hawking nonsense. Like, this is I don't know if it's delusion. I don't know if these guys are lying. I don't know if he really believes this or not. But it's a very odd. It's odd to listen to people say things like that when that obviously has not been the case for a very long time. We continue.
Came out of COVID better, but people don't live in other countries. They live in this one. And so if their experience is bad, it's going to be reflected. Y'all, I think there were a lot of contributing factors to the loss that Democrats experienced. But I always felt like this race was either going to be like this, neck and neck, or that
like
it was
this?
actually going to be
Like
a
this.
demonstrable win. I was hoping that demonstrable win was going to be in favor of Kamala Harris. But if you look across these battleground states, the blue wall collapsed, not terribly significantly, but enough for us not to win those electoral votes. And we got to get inside.
It collapsed significantly, bro. He had a clean sweep. I predicted a landslide. I didn't predict a clean sweep of the blue wall. Nobody did. So like,
what the hell working people in this country are thinking. And when I include working people, I'm not talking about white rural folks. That is not a synonym for working people. Working people are black, brown, everything in between. Who felt.
Does that include white rural folks?
So we just left out of that one.
No, I genuinely don't understand.
I don't either.
Somebody help me out with why he said that part. Who thinks that the working class is only populated by white people in rural America? Kamala didn't even go to the rural people.
No.
Calling this bitch!
Like, this party was not doing their bidding. Even though we're the only ones doing their bidding, the talking points on the other side and the messaging from the other side made them look like they were the Union Party and not us. And we got to figure that shit out. And the last point I'll make is when we were in Atlanta, and I will never forget that young man who stood up and talked about the hundreds of black men that he encounters every single week in Atlanta through the nature of his work and the fact that they were saying that straight black men don't have a home in the Democratic Party. And you then consider...
I'm a straight black man. There is no figure in the Democratic Party that appeals to me. Let me see. But except for Bernie Sanders. But Bernie Sanders is independent. He's not a Democrat.
Does the Democratic Party appeal to straight white men either?
That's true. I obviously not. I think the Democratic Party has given up on straight white men. That's what I think.
You can't. Aren't they? They're the ones that were upset about the whole toxic masculinity, right? Wasn't that the left?
No, that was right-wing dudes that were upset. Who was upset about toxic masculinity? Like the term?
No.
Who was offended by it, or who
created the term to say there's a problem with that?
That's leftists. That's leftists.
Right.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. There's.
What about him?
I'm just saying that there's a whole group of the male population that doesn't fit with the left because they go after the stuff and then call it toxic when men are like it was a shaving commercial.
Yeah.
It wasn't like he was beating the hell out of the woman. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. The whole toxic masculinity thing was strange to me. Both sides were strange to me, especially like in a Gillette commercial. Like I understood it because I grew up seeing my mom, people putting hands on my mother. So, to me, anytime I saw toxic masculinity, I looked at that as there's a way to be masculine that's positive and a way to be masculine that's negative, and we're calling out the negative version of masculinity, but they didn't do a very good job of communicating the positive aspects at all. Although in the Gillette commercial, you did have guys, like somebody was getting bullied and the guy stepped in.
Yeah. Somebody
was harassing a woman, a guy stepped in.
Yeah.
But the fact of the matter, I'm going to say something controversial. White dudes in America are very, very sensitive. Okay, it's just, and I'm about to destroy my viewership right now. Who is it? When you look at the trans conversation, who is it that's destroying stores? You ever seen any black trans people destroying stores? You ever seen any black trans people threatening to murder people and all that? Nah, bro. If you're socialized in a country that says you're the king, you're this or you're that, and your ancestors did, which by the way, I think is great for white people. I think it's great that when they learn that they're at the top of the pile and all the rest of it. It's one of the reasons I don't send my black children to a white to a white institution known as public school. Mm-hmm. My kids never stepped foot in one of them classes. And that's because Republicans say this, just reading, writing, and arithmetic.
No, it
bullshit.
is not.
It's worldview. It's not just reading, writing, and arithmetic. Stop it. You Republicans are so dishonest. It's about reading, writing, and arithmetic. No, there is a worldview. When you talk about world history, there is a worldview, okay? A British person is not going to teach the American Revolutionary War the same way that an American teacher would. Mm-hmm. Nor should they. That institution is not for us. It's for them, and there's nothing wrong with that. We continue. You can't say I'm mad at white people.
Hey, which one of these is Middle America?
I don't know. I think it's Vin and Sori too. Why? Why are you trying to get in there?
Because I'm going to...
The significant loss of black men younger, black Latino men younger, and white men younger who philosophically are not identifying as conservative. They're just looking for a home.
Agree! You guys found a way to make 78-year-old Donald Trump cooler to kids in my generation than Kamala Harris. Which you got to be really, really, really skilled in order to accomplish that. We continue.
Well, they didn't gain ground with black men, Andrew. I want to be cautious about putting out data.
Listen, I'm not saying that black men are responsible for Kamala losing. White.
This is another thing that it's like if the majority of black men did not just go and vote for Democrat. Now they're trying to keep it to not blame black people for voting for who they wanted to vote for or whatever. It's just such an odd way to look at the world to me. Shout out to Derek Chauvin. We continue.
Women, without a doubt,
white men.
And white men are without a doubt the reason that...
white men, white women, and the Latinos had a 10% delta for the Democrats. We continue.
He did not win. It was their collapse. But what I'm not going to do is ignore that in some of these battleground states, Donald Trump got 10 points more than he did in the last election with black men, and doubled 20 points with Latinos. And so what I'm saying is we can't try to explain. And
Kamala couldn't flip those people that you just talked about. You just said it. You just heard him say he had a plus 20. He had a 20-point plus up in some areas, okay? So when he talked about, she was down 8, but she only lost 3, so good for her. No, it's not, because Trump didn't have that ideology. To your point, he went plus 20 here, plus 10 here. That's what you have to do to win. Simple. We continue.
And academician through academic exercise, our way out of the fact that we have an emerging problem amongst certain constituencies of these young men who do not feel like they are seen, heard, played with, dealt with within the Democratic Party. And that will be a significant problem, especially when you consider what the future demographic voting demographic will be.
That's because you do not see or hear them. Let me ask you a question, dear listener. Where is the left-wing equivalent of Jordan Peterson? Well, what do you mean by that? Here's what I mean by that, dear listener. Jordan Peterson has become the surrogate father to a whole bunch of these young, disaffected young people. Black, white, red, doesn't matter. His 12 rules for life, all the rest of it, when he's talking about make your bed and all this shit, and everybody's mocking it, haha. I think sold 10 million books or something like that. Ridiculous number. There is a father wound in this country. And, when you're in the hood, why do kids join gangs? It's because they don't have a father figure. That's why. The OG of the gang becomes a father. Your gang friends become your brothers. Blah 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 blah. There's a guy on YouTube, and it was like, "Dad, teach me too."
Yes, that's right.
And he exploded in a month. Yep. In a month.
How to tie a tie.
How to tie a tie.
All the basic stuff that you get from your dad. How to shave.
It exploded in a month. I said, "Oh my!" It killed me because I'm like, this just shows how much pain there is in young men. And just the country as a whole relative to fathers. It's sad. It's sad. But the Democratic Party has not done it. There is, I don't necessarily know what's going on in the mind of the left. Why there isn't a left-wing Joe Rogan? Why isn't there a left-wing Jordan Peterson? I assume a lot of that has to do with grounding worldviews that would produce those kinds of people. The postmodernist assumptions that a lot of leftist liberals have does not comport to a character like Jordan Peterson or Joe Rogan. But, we continue. Hey, Jet's in the house.
Yeah, I just want to hop in because we're 10 minutes in.
I'm done. That's my piece.
I think we have to consider that the voter turnout itself was smaller, and that's why some of those gains look like.
Yeah, the voter turnout being that small is a real problem for me. It's a real problem for me because I am very, very skeptical about all explanations as to how we lost 15 million people. I'm extremely skeptical about that number. Very skeptical about that number.
They were larger. I'll be quick. What I think went right. I think that Vice President Harris ran an amazing campaign that was pulled together and executed in 107 days. This idea that she didn't talk about the economy is bullshit. She absolutely did. she put together an incredible campaign in 107 days. And I don't think the idea that she didn't talk about the economy is complete and utter bullshit. And it drives me crazy that people say that constantly across the cable news spectrum, and hosts who are supposed to be journalists don't correct it. She did talk about the economy. I don't think there is...
Hosts who are journalists don't correct it. She did talk about the economy. Well, okay, I'm sure she must have talked about the economy, but it appears that at the level of the voter, I did not hear a lot about the economy. I heard about her growing up in a middle class family. I heard a lot about that. I didn't hear about what she was going to do to fix the economy. And secondly, guys, Trump handed Trump handed Biden a 1.4 inflation rate. When Biden took over, the inflation rate was at 1.4%. Okay? 2 years in, inflation went all the way up to 9%. So, the economics of this situation, the Democratic Party didn't do a good job of it. And the problem is, the people who took our inflation rate from 1.4 to 9.2 were Democrats and were the Biden administration, of which she was the second operator. So how in the world was she going to come and talk about fixing the inflation and all the other economic situations in America when your boss is the one that put us in this situation? The obvious answer is, well, she had to break from Biden somehow. How she's going to break from Biden and diss Biden the entire time? Trump would have ate her alive, because he would have said, well, why weren't you saying that before? She was in an impossible situation. Impossible. We continue.
Anything that she could have done differently that would have changed the outcome of this election. What I think went wrong.
She said there's nothing she could have done differently?
Supposed to be journalists don't correct it. She did talk about the economy. I don't think there is anything that she could have done differently that would have changed the outcome of this election.
There's nothing she could have done differently to change the outcome of this election. I think she might be right. I think she might be right.
I think so.
Her and I might disagree as to why, right? Her and I will probably disagree about why. She's probably going to say there is no way she could have won because she was a black woman and the electorate's racist, which I do not. I'm sorry. I just have a very hard time with that ideology. But I do think that there's nothing Kamala could have done because she's not constituted to run the campaign in 2024 that needs to be run. Whoever the Democrats pick in 28 is going to have to be a really good operator and somebody who can go to Joe Rogan and shoot the shit for 3 hours like a normal person. We continue.
What I think went wrong, hence right for the Trump campaign, is that a majority of people in this country were either in support of or okay with racist, xenophobic, misogynistic viewpoints of this president. Even if the president was saying, I will do this thing for you, I will pretend to put this policy forth, which he didn't put any policy up front, but he was saying, under me, you'll walk down streets paved with gold and have, refrigerators and milk and honey every day.
You'll have refrigerators?
I don't know what she meant by that.
I don't really understand that point. Well, was Trump running around telling everybody that he was going to get us all fridges? Hold on, let me just rewind.
Misogynistic. The Trump campaign is that a majority of people in this country were either in support of or okay with racist, xenophobic, misogynistic viewpoints of this president.
You know why? Do you know why? Because as Marx told us, there's metaphysics and then there's physics, okay? And the situation on the ground was such that these people, when they're going to Walmart and they're paying $20 for eggs, these are material conditions on the ground. Mm-hmm. These are not people with podcasts. These are not people with careers in the DNC who are getting paid six-figure salaries like you guys. These are regular Americans who are struggling day to day with their material conditions. So If the person handing them bread is a Ku Klux Klan member, blah, 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 they don't care because they got a kid to feed. And for you in your comfy little environment to spew this invective that Americans are, the majority of the country is in support of racist, misogyny, blah, 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 blah. White women, I guess, are in favor of misogyny. I think white women's main concern is they're probably the ones that are doing all the shopping and home budgeting. Mm-hmm. And I think that was their concern. Because they have children and a family. No disrespect. There's a lot of people on the left that have decided not to have children and a family. That's your choice. That's okay. What I'm saying is, the people that have children and families, though, have different priorities. You, in the pundit class, you can worry about metaphysics because your material conditions are guaranteed. When your material conditions are straight, you can have all the metaphysical conversations about racism, sexism, classism, all you want. The material conditions on the ground were absolute garbage. Yeah, I will make you a mod, Dwayne, for sure. I just don't really know how we're doing.
That's what I'm trying to get into the...
Yeah, but I'm the guy on this thing. They should have had it over here. But yeah, we continue.
Get in the other way.
Here we go. Dems won voters earning over 100K. They abandoned the working class in exchange for the PMC. That's exactly right. Yeah, Applejack is a mod. Handle biz, baby. We continue.
Even if the president was saying, I will do this thing for you, I will pretend to put this policy forth, which he didn't put any policy up front, but he was...
What do you mean he didn't put any policy up front? What are you talking about? Trump? All these people voted for Trump without policy? Catholic Uncle Tom. We continue.
Under me, you'll walk down streets paved with gold and have, refrigerators and milk and honey every day. And in the next breath, he was calling Nancy Pelosi a bitch, or he was dancing incoherently across stage for 45 minutes.
Dancing incoherently. What are we talking about here? What are we talking about here? How does one dance incoherently?
Babe.
Listen to me. He's white, okay? With a fair concept, the white man has no rhythm because he was made in a lab by a big head scientist by the name of Yakub.
I know my maker. No.
Or insulting Michelle Obama, insulting Vice President Harris. They were okay with all those things.
Yeah, I'm okay with political leaders insulting each other. That's the game. That's what happens. I don't know if you guys remember this, but Mr. Biden said that Mr. Trump had the morals of an alley cat. He said that in a debate. Now, what if Mr. Trump, during the debate with Kamala, said, Kamala, you have the personal integrity of a prostitute. I mean, if you say you have the morals of an alley cat, couldn't that count as hateful and dehumanizing rhetoric? Mm-hmm. That never even made nobody cared. So if Trump says something about Kamala, especially with her sexual past, that's all of a sudden misogynistic? Sorry. This is one of those things, man. Listen, I used to hate playing basketball with girls. I hate when the girls stepped on the court. Because on the one hand, it's like, all right, here's this girl. Basketball can be a very physical sport, man. But now you're gonna kind of like hold back because there's a girl there. She loads up to shoot. You're not going to send that shit across the court because it's like, yo, you did that to a girl. What's wrong with you?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And finally, I just said, fuck it. If you're in the court, you're getting it. I don't care. You're getting it. Kamala steps into the ring. If you step into the ring, bro, you got to fight. You can't get this stuff right here where he's like, Trump said all this horrible stuff about her. Yeah, it's called politics. We continue.
So that is what we have to confront in this country, quite frankly. The fact that a majority of people were either in support of or indifferent to his hatefulness and his hateful rhetoric.
They were not in support of, they were indifferent to his rhetoric because that is in the metaphysical plane and these people have bad material conditions on the ground. Aren't you leftists supposed to be Marxist? Why am I, the Christian, explaining to you guys Marxist theory about how people make political decisions? We continue.
A few things. One, I want to commend Kamala Harris for a historic run and a very brave run. I don't know anybody that could have pulled off what she did in 107 days. So
I will say Kamala raised $1 billion in 100 days. I mean, that's 3 months to raise $1 billion. Mm-hmm. That is significant.
Echo that, Tiff. I also want to commend her on mollywopping and mopping the floor with Donald Trump in that debate.
This is so pathetic. I mean, she objectively won that debate, although, anyway, we continue.
I also want to commend them on plugging in influencers the best way they knew how in the campaign. I would argue
you guys didn't do a good job of plugging in influencers that were going to actually affect the electorate. Joe Rogan obviously will affect the electorate. So, was it call her daddy, call me daddy, or whatever? No, I never even heard of those people until then. And I still haven't watched that interview. I'm not going to lie to you.
That the influencer...
Yeah, that's actually a good point. If you're Kamala Harris and you believe because you're black and because you're a woman, right, that white men aren't going to vote for you, why would you then go to the Call Her Daddy podcast, which is a white woman show? Mm-hmm. I, as a black man, have no interest in that show. I saw her sitting down on the screen. I just kept on going. I don't really understand that logic. Maybe Kamala thought there's no way I can get straight white men, so let's just go crazy on the women. Mm-hmm. Which, okay, I'll pull back. That's a good strategy. I agree.
What I would think, yeah.
But not going on Rogan was a bad strategy. But as I said, she can't do long form.
I was going to say, but if she went, we would have all probably said that wasn't a good strategy. Like, even her own team might have thought that. If she had to go long form for 3 hours with Joe Rogan, the passage of time would have been real.
Unburdened by what has been. Oh, Lord.
And the surrogates who participated on the campaign trail were probably one of the more organized pieces of the campaign. However, that's not sufficient. And I think, Andrew, to the argument that we had with Tiff before on if the role of celebrities is outsized with what actually matters when people go into the voting booth is something that really should be questioned at this point.
This is oh my gosh. Now I'm like suspicious that y'all didn't lose worse. We're really going to have a conversation about the role of celebrities relative to the electorate? That kind of statement right there shows you what kind of world these people are living in. Mm-hmm. This girl can't afford eggs at freaking Walmart, Angela. Why are we talking about celebrities? Don't you? We had Taylor Swift, we had Beyonce, we had this, we had that. Don't you realize that actually works against you because you're bringing up all these powerful millionaire, billionaire people? They come down on a private jet from the third heaven, says, vote for this guy, and then goes back to your jet into the third heaven, and you actually think that that's going to influence people to vote for you? Right, because your material conditions are set so you can have stars in your eyes with all these people. But the lady on the ground, or the guy that's working 5 hours of overtime every single day to just basically be at zero at the end of the month, that guy doesn't give a damn about Taylor Swift or Beyonce or George Clooney. As a matter of fact, those figures tend to remind them about the gigantic gap between where they want to be and where they should be and where they actually are. But we're actually saying we need to have a conversation about these celebrities. Oh my God.
A lot of money.
Here's the other thing about the new generation, these Gen Zs and these millennials. They're not as impressed with celebrities as we were growing up. They're not. You know why? Because all of them know what their favorite celebrity ate for breakfast. Mm-hmm. They know about their favorite celebrity's breakup. They know all that stuff. They know all of it. Why? Because your favorite celebrity is now on Twitter and is a human being. He's not a god. Mm-hmm. You know, before, these people were untouchable. You couldn't do anything with them. But now, they're just regular people now because we know what you ate for breakfast, man. We continue.
He was spent on getting those folks out to the trail, getting them on the stage, ensuring their involvement. And I don't know.
Yeah, y'all spent a lot of money on that. I think Beyonce got $1 million to talk for 7 minutes. Oprah got $2.5 million. And these are all coming out of this is all coming out of the contributions that regular poor Democrats were pouring into
Yep.
the entire thing. Do me a favor and refresh that page, because that should not be the thumbnail. If it is a thumbnail, use the other one. We continue.
That
Babe, I can't.
she
change
saw a real
anything.
ROI there, and that's something that has to be discussed. I have a tremendous bone to pick with white men and with white women. These are the same folks I talked about needing to be held accountable for whatever they decide to do on election day, and I'm not veering from that.
I don't understand what you mean by